Right, so today I wanted to talk about mass shootings and the myths that surround mass shootings. Now, the first one is coming from Andy Now here, saying, I'm hearing repeated as gospel that nearly all American mass shooters are white. Here's the photos of mass shooters from 2019 defined as four or more shot in a single incident. Shows a quite diverse set of faces. Now, as you can see, if I kind of zoom in here, um, there definitely is some white people, but there seems to be a pretty clear pattern here. Like definitely a pretty clear pattern here. And the first thing is it's very few Asians. That's the one thing I noticed. But the other thing is not a lot of whites, and the biggest one is that the clear majority of are black men. Right? Black men account for, I think it's like 6 or 7% of the population of America, but they account for about half of all homicides. It looks like even more mass shootings, right? So the reality of mass shootings when it comes to race is that if it is a white person who does it, the mainstream media will blow it out of. Not again, I'm not saying that any, obviously not condoning any of this kind of stuff. But the mainstream media will blow it out of proportion to the nth degree, right? Like exactly what we've seen with a lot of these big mass shootings, right? When it's a white guy who does it, it's the biggest thing in the news for weeks, sometimes even months. But like what we seen last week with the Syrian guy who did it, it's out of the news within a couple days, even though I think he killed like 10 or 11 people, right? So again, the mainstream media has a clear agenda afoot. It is to smear white men, right? It couldn't be more obvious if they made it. Like unless, aside from them literally coming out with breaking news, we hate white men, they couldn't make it more obvious. Now, again, what incentive do they have to go? I'm sure a lot of people are probably asking that. What incentive do they have to go after white men? Well, it's very simple. Um, White men are the group that overwhelmingly opposes the left, right? The mainstream media is overwhelmingly left wing, so of course they're going to go after the group that's overwhelmingly on the right. There is no group of people, or even subgroup of people, that vote right wing, or at the very least not leftist, at a higher proportion than white men. Right? This is why white men are so hated in society, at least from their perspective. Um, so yeah, and this is the same reason why they don't go after it when it's a black guy, or I mean, in this case, a Middle Eastern guy who does it, because again, like minorities overwhelmingly vote for the left. So again, at the end of the day, it's a political thing. And a lot of people probably, you think the mainstream media is that petty? Well, of course they are. You think that they're willing to let people get killed to put? Of course they are. The mainstream media pushed the weapons of mass destruction conspiracy theory, and turned out, what did it get? Like a million Middle Easterners killed in a pointless war? You think they're willing to let a million people get killed, but they're not willing to? Same thing goes for a lot of these other things I'm not going to get into because YouTube probably doesn't like it either. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about in that, um, of course, the mainstream media and a lot of these high-end, big name politicians are willing to let people get killed to push their political agenda. Like they've done it more times than you can count in the past. What makes you think that things have changed at all? Right? So that is the big myth when it comes to mass shootings, that it's overwhelmingly white men, which it isn't. The reason why people think that is that whenever a white guy commits a mass shooting, the mainstream media just makes it appear, blows it out of proportion. But when a black guy does it, it's barely even in the news. When a Middle Eastern guy does it, it's barely even in the news. And when it's a drive-by or a gang shooting, well, then it really isn't even. It may not even be local news, right? So yeah, that's the first thing. And the other big thing when it comes to mass shootings is the whole gun control aspect of it, which I've been been into great detail about. But um, again, gun control doesn't prevent any of this stuff. Colorado, which is the state which the latest one was committed in, already has a lot of the gun control that a lot of these people are proposing. They have red flag laws. They have a lot of this stuff, right? And did it stop it? No, right? Not to mention too, this guy clearly was at least to some degree a terrorist sympathizer, right? He was, um, I mean, if you go look back at his posts, you can tell, right? Again, I'm not saying that they should have known for sure, but again, like anybody looking at this guy, some of this guy's social media posts would be like, yeah, this guy is not right. So again, but they still had red flag laws. They still had a lot of these things that a lot of these anti-gunners are proposing, but did it stop them? No. So yeah, the whole idea that gun control will prevent this stuff is it's absolutely and utterly insane. I mean, we're going through this in Canada right now. That at the end of the day, gun control is not about saving lives. I mean, Canada is proof of that, right? In that um, our new gun control right now is going after, well, they call it assault rifles or assault weapons, but what they're really going after is basically guns that look scary. You can't even say semi-automatics because a lot of the guns they're going after are pump action shotguns, right? So you can't, not only that, a lot of the guns they're going after aren't even scary looking, right? So it's basically like pretty much any gun for any reason. But again, we know that number one, the vast majority of guns that are used in crimes in Canada are smuggled from the States. And number two, the vast majority of guns that are used in crimes are handguns. So again, if the goal is saving lives, why are we going after rifles? Well, the reason we're going after rifles is that it's entirely an emotionally based argument. It has nothing to do with saving lives, right? The numbers out of Toronto show I think it's 84% of guns used in crimes are from the States, right? Now, gun control people would say, oh, that means we can reduce gun crime by 16%. Well, no, it really doesn't because there already is compared to the US, no, but compared to the average country, Canada already has a pretty good amount of guns, right? So there already is a big supply of illegal guns in circulation now, and even if there was a gun ban, it would probably just increase the demand for illegal guns from the States. And considering these gun control zealots could care less about securing the border, the guns would come in easily. Right? So again, anyone who has a half a brain on this stuff knows that gun control does not reduce crime. Like again, like people who think that gun prohibition would work, or like do you act like it's no different than alcohol prohibition. It's no different than marijuana prohibition. Again, how did that work out? How does making the drinking age, 18 or 19 in Canada or 21 in the States, like does was it impossible to get alcohol when you were in high school? Are high school parties like did they was it just a figment of people's imaginations? Like no, it was easy to get, right? Even in rural areas, it was still easy to get marijuana, let alone in the city. Like again, like the insanity of these people that think that you know they're usually the same people that support marijuana legalization, right? It's very funny, and that we gotta legalize marijuana because people are going to do it anyway, right? But gun control, that'll be impossible. No one will ever get a gun again, even though there's already a good supply of guns in Canada, and there's what 500 million guns in the States. Oh yeah, guys, there's only 500 million of them right across the border, one of the biggest, it may even be the biggest border in the world that's largely unprotected. They'll never get into Canada, guys. Like, again, like how stupid do you have to be to believe that? Right, so again, the two big myths when it comes to mass shootings, basically in summary, is number one, white guys are the ones overwhelmingly that are doing it, which is clearly false. And number two, that if we just had a little bit of gun control, we would prevent it, which is clearly false. Um, so anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get. But at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.